Good evening, everyone. We are rapidly approaching the season of Advent and Christmas, so I have a short reading and two short prayers. So first of all, a reading from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 24, beginning at verse 42. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour you do not expect him. So the prayer for this week in the Church of England calendar. Almighty God, give us grace to cast away the works of darkness and to put on the armour of light, now in the time of this mortal life in which your Son, Jesus Christ, came to us in great humility, that on the last day, when he shall come again in his glorious majesty to judge the living and the dead, we may rise to life immortal through him who is alive and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. And a prayer for this meeting. Lord God, we thank you for the opportunity we have to serve you and the people of Tendring District. We pray that you would give to each of us the wisdom we need as we meet together this evening. Please would you bless this meeting with clear thinking, wise decisions, and unity in purpose. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all. Please be seated, and let me wish you all a good Advent and good Christmas and a good meeting.
Good evening all. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. I've had apologies for absence for Councillor Linda McWilliams, Councillor Barry, Councillor Turner, Councillor Cox, and sorry, I've got one other, Maurice Alexander. Apologies.
Item 2, meeting of the last meeting of the Council, pages 9 to 20. Do we all agree? Okay. Item 3, declarations of interest. Anybody?
Councillor Scott.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest on item number 15 with reference to adoption of the revised gambling licensing policy. I have a gambling licence in my name. Thank you.
Likewise for me, Chairman.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd wish to declare a disclosable pecuniary interest and non-registrable interest in item 12, motion pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 12, submitted by Councillor Peter Harris in relation to the changes to agricultural property relief and business property relief. My spouse and wider family own and rent agricultural land in Tendring for the purpose of commercial food production. I've been granted a dispensation under section 33(2)(c) of the Localism Act 2011 by the Councillors Monitoring Officer, allowing me to participate and to vote. The reason for the decision is on the grounds that this is in the interests of persons living and working in the authority's area for this dispensation to be granted. I'm sole ward councillor for Ardley and Little Bromley and have an opportunity to voice its residents' and businesses' concerns and act in the best interest and possible outcomes for the whole of the district. The council will not be the ultimate decision maker regarding the proposals which will go off to Cabinet for determination. The ward I represent is very rural, Tendring ward, where farming contributes significantly to employment and the local economy, both for my ward and the wider district. And I want to be able to act in the best interests for my residents and for the district as a whole. And the monitoring officer has agreed that a dispensation is necessary for me to be able to fulfil this role. Thank you.
Councillor Mike Bush.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'd like to make a declaration of interest and also really a notification. As from immediate effect, I'm leaving the tendering independent political group and administration to go and sit in the opposition as an unaligned independent councillor to represent the interests of the community that elected me. Thank you.
Announcements by the chairman. I think you've all got the sheet on your table there, what we've been up to. Announcements by the Chief Executive.
I have none, Chairman, thank you.
Statements by the leader.
Thank you, Chairman. I have none.
Statements by the member of the Cabinet. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm delighted to announce and to inform Council that the Honeycroft project, which was the demolition of the sheltered scheme and its replacement with 13 bungalows for the elderly and a small community centre in Lawford, has recently been completed. Its achievement is a testament to the dedication, hard work and collaboration of everyone involved, from our own staff and contractors alike. I know much of what I'm about to say has probably been said by a Chief Executive and leader of the Council at an event on Wednesday the 13th of November, to which many people were invited, including the ward councillors and the previous portfolio holder for housing. As most of this council know, residents of the Honeycroft Sheltered Housing Scheme were moved out in 2017. It was closed in 2018 and finally demolished in 2021, with Rose Builders of Lawford being subsequently appointed as this council's contractor. Having visited the site during construction on more than one occasion, I've seen the project continue at pace and grow, and I will be visiting the site this coming Friday, as I was unfortunately away and unable to do so on the 13th, to see the final result. As Mark and Ian have said, this project is not about putting something up to replace what was previously there or putting a roof over people's head. It is about enhancing the quality of life for our residents, and the environmental sustainability of this scheme is a vital aspect of its success. Innovative solutions have been implemented that will benefit the environment, the tenants who will live here, and sets a standard for any future projects. Energy efficient designs, the use of sustainable materials, all carefully designed to minimise environmental impact. This includes efficient heating, well-insulated solar panels, keeping running costs low, combating fuel poverty and reducing any environmental impacts. I'd also like to acknowledge the cross-party political support that's been crucial in bringing this project to life and completion. It was started by the previous administration, and it is important to give credit where it is due. The vision and groundwork laid the foundation of what has been achieved. It is an example of what can be accomplished when we all work together, regardless of our political differences, and shows our shared commitment to serving our community and making a better place for all. I would also like to publicly put on the record, Chairman, this council's thanks, firstly to our officers, from the initial planning stages to the final touches, and to our contractors, Rose Builders, for their expertise, commitment and professionalism in delivering this project on time and within budget. Residents will be moving in the next 2 weeks. I was informed this afternoon, and some of those residents have resized, and being released into our housing stock as a result of these 13 bungalows being completed is one 4-bedroom house fully adapted for those who are unfortunately disabled, a 3-bedroom house, 3 2-bedroom flats and a 1-bedroom flat. And finally, Mr. Chairman, this council made a commitment when the previous residents moved out of the old Honeycroft that they would be at the top of the list for the allocation to the new bungalows. And I'm delighted to say that commitment has never wavered, and that 2 of the previous residents will be moving back in the next 2 weeks. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Petitions to the Council. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I have to say it's a real credit to the authority what's been created. And I do thank portfolio holder, the leader and the chief exec when for the credit that the previous administration. It was a very long and complex process. We finally got there. And in fact, the portfolio holder was his own ward when he lived in the area. The quality of the building is absolutely outstanding, and this is a shape of thing to come, because there's no reason why any council, future council housing that's provided should not look like that as it has done. This is an excellent way in which a mixture of finances from the housing revenue account and the home bonus and how we allocated the resources of this council brought about what is an absolute stunning development to be proud of. Sadly, I do not qualify for one of those, but I would very much like to move in one of those if I'm given a chance. But I would like to congratulate the council and the administration for having carried on our very hard work in the previous years. And it's, like I said, something to be proud of for all of us. Thank you.
Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Chairman. My congratulations also as previous portfolio holder on the completion of this. Rightly so, it was started by the previous administration, but it was finished by this administration, and they deserve congratulations for that. Really well done. I have a sort of interest in that my mother was actually a resident in the previous Honeycroft house and would have been one of those entitled to move back in. Sadly, she's no longer with us, so she won't be, but I'm sure that those who do move to that new location at Honeycroft will enjoy it immensely. It's a fabulous achievement, and congratulations to everybody involved. Thank you.
Item 9. Petitions to the council. Sorry, item 8. There are none. Question 9, pursuant to the Council Procedure Rule 10.1. There are none. Question 10, report of the Leader of the Council, A1 Urgent Cabinet Portfolio Holder, decisions pages 21 to 24. Mark Stevenson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to move the recommendation on page 21 as noted.
All agreed? Question 11, minutes of the committees, pages 25 to 68. To 88.
Thank you, Chairman. With the blessing of the council, I'm happy to move these on block.
All agree? Item 11. Item 12. Motion to the Council pursuant to Council Procedures Rule 12. Changes to Agriculture Property Relief, Business Property Relief, pages 89 to 90. Peter Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agenda item number 12, motion to Council pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 12 submitted by myself, Councillor Peter Harris, in relation to changes to the Agricultural Property Relief and Business Property Relief. And the motion states, A, this Council notes that the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves MP, announced in the budget on the 30th of October 2024 changes to the Agricultural Property Relief APR and the Business Property Relief BPR, and 2, this will potentially seriously affect the district of Tendring, as a significant percentage of our district is of a rural nature, with farming significantly contributing to our local economy. B, therefore this Council, in accordance with the corporate plan, themes of our pride in our area and services to residents and championing our local environment, requests that 1, the Leader of Tendring District Council, Councillor Mark Stevenson, through a resolution from Cabinet, instructs officers A, to establish the total number of commercial farms and small holdings operating and based in the tendering district, and B, via consultation with local farmers and investigation, to determine a realistic assessment of the potential impact of these businesses, or on these businesses, and the subsequent impact on the district of tendering and the local economy. 2, the findings of the above be reported back to Cabinet and thence onto the relevant overview and scrutiny committee at the earliest opportunity, given the potential serious implications. 3, the findings, together with the Cabinet's final decision on this matter, be reported to full Council for its information.
Got a second, Peter?
Second, Chair, and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, can you? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Council, and for the purposes of members of the public viewing, both in the gallery and online. This is just so that I can confirm, as one of the Council's statutory officers, that I circulated a note to all district councillors yesterday evening, pursuant to the Council Procedure Rule 12, which requires us to confirm on behalf of Ian Davidson, Mr Barrett and myself, whether there are any reasons why this motion could not be debated this evening. And I confirmed to you all yesterday that there is no reason why it cannot be debated. So that's one of the pieces of information that was contained in the note. And secondly, that if Council were to support the motion, it is essentially a request to ask the Cabinet to do something which is an executive function, so it would go on to Cabinet, and they would need to consider the budget allocation and the resources in which to make that decision. So that's a summary of the advice that you all received yesterday.
Over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Okay, in the autumn budget announced on October the 30th, Chancellor Rachel Reeves, the experienced banking economist, Olympic gold medalist and astronaut, I'm led to believe that is all true, made significant changes to the APR and BPR. These changes are significant, and whilst the government state that very few will be affected, farmers disagree. Some reports state that up to 75% of farms could be affected. I attended the recent demonstration in Westminster, joining thousands of farmers making their voice heard. A number of them were from right here in Tendring. They were family-owned farms, some 3, 4 and 5 generation, stretching back before the war, when we relied upon them to feed a nation. Some were tenant farmers and all concerned about their future. Now, the government wants a land grab to raise just £500 million per year. Coincidentally, the same £500 million figure this government is sending to farmers overseas in foreign aid. You really couldn't make it up. With land prices high at over £10,000 per acre, farmers will be forced to sell assets or land to pay a substantial tax bill. Farmers are mostly asset rich and cash poor. Selling part of their land to pay the bill simply won't work. Farmers I spoke to said that the farms were making just £35,000 profit if they were lucky. Many farms are already struggling with increased costs associated with farming and controlled pricing from large supermarkets, not to mention the weather conditions, sometimes too hot, sometimes too wet, typical farming conditions. So how will this change in the inheritance tax possibly affect our district of Tendring? The honest answer is, we just don't know. When I asked TDC how many farms we have in Tendring, they didn't have an answer. What we do know is that the rural aspect of Tendring makes up over 60% of our district and is the second largest contributor to our local economy. They provide a wide range of jobs, business income, training, local food produce, plus they are a major player in terms of the local ecology and the way that our countryside looks and is kept so beautiful. Think of the food that you eat, the beer and the wine that you drink. It all comes from farms. Food security is a major challenge for this country in uncertain times. And what happens to the land that is sold off? Will we see thousands of houses, hideous wind farms and black solar farms in place of our once beautiful green fields? If we lose our farms in tendering, we lose so much. Do we listen to the government who say there is nothing to see here? Or do we listen to the warning and cry for help from our farmers of many generations? We owe it to our farmers to consult with them. Please support this motion. But I'll leave you with one final word, and this is Sir Keir Starmer, who said to the National Farmers Union before the election, "Losing a farm is not like losing any other business. It can't come back." Please support this motion. Thank you.
Carlo.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move an amendment to that motion. Okay, my amendment has been distributed and without taking too much time. Paragraph A remains unaltered as been read by Councillor Harris. B, it goes, therefore this council, in accordance with the corporate plan themes of pride in our area and services to residents and championing our local environment, requests that this is all new text. The leader of District Council, Councillor Mark Stevenson, writes to Rachel Reeve MP to ask her to pause the announcement of the budget of 30th of October 2024 on the Agricultural Property Relief, APR, and the Business Property Relief, BPR, until a full and national consultation with all those affected by these changes will have taken place. 2, before this full and national consultation is launched by the government, it must be prepared with the full cooperation and oversight of the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, and the National Farmer Union, NFU, who will provide the government full details of its members so to reach the maximum number of farmers affected by these changes, thereby giving a proper assessment of the potential impact on their businesses and subsequent impact on the local economy of Tendring District. And 3, the leader of Tendring District Council, Councillor Mark Stevenson, lobbies the Local Government Association, LGA, to ask that all of its members to likewise write to Rachel Reeves to replicate the action of this council. Thank you.
Seconder for that, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to second that.
Carlo, explain your amendment, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I felt that when we looked at this motion, it wasn't really doing very much to bring this to some kind of resolution. I do share the view of Councillor Harris to look for data and see what and get some information so a better decision could be made. But the time they will take to get that together, it would probably outdate the end result. So I think it's a much better solution if this council, which could be the first to lead the field really, was to do as we propose in our amendment and also engage with the LGA, which is a very, very powerful tool, national tool, to get this plight of so many farmers face to get some national importance. Not that it needs it, because there is a huge amount of traction. And the demonstration to Westminster the other day told its own story. But I think it will be, we could get ourselves a lot of kudos by doing something constructive, writing to the to the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and also get other people to do so. Our leader is the Deputy Chairman of the Essex leaders, so therefore that will be another very good forum where this could be raised as well, and to get as many of our Essex, or all of the Essex district, the other 11 in fact, on board with this and do exactly the same. And if everybody up and down the country did the same as what we are proposing in our amendment, then there will be something extremely powerful that could not really be ignored and taken into consideration. Mr. Chairman, I'll alter there because I know that other people will have a view on this, but this is just to explain the reason why we put this amendment forward. Thank you.
Can Lisa Hastings speak, please?
Councillor Fairley, can I just check whether you want to speak now or you reserve your right to reply and like to come in later?
I'd like to reserve my right to reply. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, members, just so you know now, you are now debating the amendment as put forward by Councillor Guglielmi. You will then have a vote on the amendment. If the amendment is carried, that will become the substantive motion. If the amendment is lost, it will then revert back to the original amendment. Thank you.
Sorry. In addition to what the Chief Executive has just said, the mover, Councillor Harris, and Councillor Brays, the seconder, you can, if you wish, indicate if you're going to accept the amendment. Okay, I'm seeing no. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to double check.
Now open to debate. Who's first on it?
Sorry, was that turned down to the amendment? I didn't really catch it.
Can I just clarify, therefore, what we've said is your debate is now about the amendment. You are now open for debate. Once the debate has completed, you will have a vote on the debate, on the amendment as to whether that is accepted. If the amendment is accepted, that becomes your substantive motion, and you can then have a debate on that. You can speak on the amendment once, and you can speak then on the substantive motion once. So therefore, if anybody now wishes to speak on the amendment, they can do so. This is now the debate for the amendment. Are you indicating you wish to speak? Okay. Brad.
Bradley, do you want to speak?
No, sorry, that was it. Thank you.
Councillor Cousins. Mark.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I mean, I would definitely be supporting the amendment. In a recent past life, I was also farming land in Tendring as well. But I also think that, I mean, the comments are made about, I mean, I'm not totally convinced that the District Council is the right body to be investigating this, because I think one of another past employment I had was actually appeal on the Independent Appeals Panel, DEFRA Appeals Panel, and what I always used to find was the complexity of how holdings are set up, etc., and how farming businesses operated. I think it would be a very difficult thing for the District Council to actually achieve, and I think at the end of the day, I think we would miss the boat on this. I think time would go on and we would just have an item that was for information. So I think the amendment is far more important. It is actually proper action rather than just going through the motions, because the complexity of how holdings are set up is far more complex than just counting the numbers of farms.
Pete Harris.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to sort of clarify, really, a point in the motion, the original motion, which is B, via consultation with local farmers and investigation. The investigation isn't restrictive on where you go, and indeed you can actually, the officers deem, they can actually go to DEFRA or wherever they deem fit, or the NFU, or wherever they deem where they're going to get that adequate information. So it is actually fit. So I just wanted to clarify that point. Thank you.
Carlo. Zoe, you're first there.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm genuinely surprised at how few people have said anything this evening so far. There is huge concern and confusion over these budget measures for how many farms are going to be affected, and there's a sharp contrast between the government's suggestion of 27% and the NFU estimate of up to 75% of farms. DEFRA haven't carried out any impact assessment. The process has not been robust. No wonder then that family farms across the UK have huge concerns for the future of their businesses, their families' futures and food security. So it's vital that the government re-look at the figures and adjust their proposed budget measures to take full and proper account of the impact on the future of family farms. This work on numbers and impacts, I believe, must be carried out at government level. Our farmers support this council and our communities in many ways and make a significant contribution to our local economy. The possible outcomes on economic growth and mental health in an industry with the worst of suicide rates must be of serious concern to every councillor here. We depend on our farmers for food security as well as for the stewardship of our countryside. It's very difficult for those not involved with farming to understand the deep connection to the land and community stewardship role that family farming instills across generations. We will lose that. There are so many aspects of commercial food production that farmers have little or no control over, or the asset-rich, cash-poor nature of family farming. Their land and equipment are the tools they need to produce our food. A single medium-sized tractor, £180,000, an average-sized combine, £500,000. Together with land, asset values soon mount up. Taking that away, piece by piece on death, family farms lose their ability to survive. As well as what Peter said, that Keir Starmer said, losing farm is not like any other business, it can't come back. He also said livelihoods are on the line, farmers deserve better, and a government that listens. The risks of commercial food production are high and margins paper thin. Energy, fuel, fertiliser prices. Fertiliser, by the way, due to incur a carbon tax at £50 per tonne in the UK from January 27, £150 million annually to the industry, which won't be fully implemented in France until 2034. UK welfare standards, crop application restrictions, tariff, government policies, price setting by supermarkets. There's plenty feeding into an unlevel playing field and low margins. Global events, wars and conflict, COVID pandemic, crop or livestock, diseases, climate change, weather and flooding all add to risk. Then there's the cumulative impact in tendering when looking at the various energy projects and wind farm developments. Farmers deserve to be listened to. We must consider actions and partnership working solutions alongside which could help achieve positive outcomes alongside identifying any possible support for economic growth. And I would ask you to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would echo my colleague, Councillor Fairley's comments on how sad it is that no one sees fit to say a few words on this, really. There is a reason why the inheritance tax regime was kept the way it was, because that really ensured the British farm community to produce food and remain intact across generation and feed the nation as they've done for centuries and centuries. And they are our stewards of the countryside. The effort that they put in to ensure that our farms and our countryside is kept the way it is, it's very much part of farming, and you cannot put a price on that. This tax is estimated to impact over 70,000 family farms, leaving an average farming family with a tax bill of at least £240,000 per family. That's £250,000. And as Councillor Fairley commented on the wafer thin profit margin that there is, taking into consideration all the various other things that have come in the way of making a proper living out of it, it's absolutely staggering. You know, we'll never, ever in a lifetime make £240,000 profit to pay this tax bill as and when farms are passed down to generation. I mean, what we're talking about here is threat to food security. They will be selling off land to kind of try and make some sense out of this, to afford this enormous tax bill that everybody's going to have. The rural community stability. This is foundation of rural Britain, contributing to local jobs, schools and essential services. The proposed tax risks that are going to destabilise the communities are absolutely insurmountable, and you cannot really forecast what's going to come out of it. And the environmental stewardship, as I've already mentioned, that's something that's really not been talked about very much, you know, because it's all been centred on the policy itself. I really urge everybody around the chamber to support our amendment and send this a very strong message to government there, and also to all of our colleagues there to do the same as what we're doing here in tendering, and be national first and set the pace. So I do really urge everyone to support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Mark Stevenson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think it caught us a little bit on the hop with the amendment. Granted, you gave us it 2 hours earlier, which is quicker than we normally get it. We normally get it on the night, 2 minutes before the meeting. As you've known, I've previously written about the pylons. I've written about the MPPF, but we're going to talk about that in a minute, I think, and I've led on that with the North Essex Council's response. And looking at this, I can't see why we can't support it. So that's the reason why a lot of us haven't spoken, because we were undecided about how to go about it. We haven't had it. There is a caveat. We had no advisory note on this, you know, because it's been put in. And when it says lobbies, you know, we're going to have to talk about how much time I spend lobbying it. But from an amendment point of view, we're happy to accept it and we'll be voting for it.
Councillor Gary Scott.
Chairman, if I may, on that, is with the rules of debate, you went round the room, you asked everybody to speak, nobody spoke, you then go to the proposer for it who summed up, and then you went to the Leader of the Council as the final person. So therefore, you're now going to the vote. Thank you.
In favour of the amendment, can we show the hands, please? Against? Abstentions? Carried. Thank you.
I'll let the clappings finish. Just to say first that now the amendment, which was agreed by council, now becomes a substantive motion. You are now debating the substantive motion. At the end of the debate of the substantive motion, you will then go to the vote, but you are voting on what was the amendment and is now the substantive motion as agreed a moment ago. Thank you.
Councillor Jeff Murray.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to everybody concerned in that vote. More than happy that we achieved more than we originally set out to achieve. Well done to everybody. I think the right decision has been made, We have many farmers in our audience. I'm sure one or two people might have noticed the tractors outside. They're quite large. We came to the right decision. These people work hard. They create the bread basket we all feed from. A good decision, everybody. I'm absolutely ecstatic that the amendment went through. A little surprised. I didn't think it would. But I'm really, really pleased that we all saw the value of our farmers. That's good news for all of us. So thank you, everybody, for supporting the amendment, which followed on from the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Mike Bush. Councillor Everett. And Councillor Danlow.
It is this one is, but that one isn't. Okay, first and foremost, I'd like to thank all the farmers that turned up tonight. Great, you show the seriousness of the issue that we're facing going forward. Very often in this chamber, we talk about Clacton, we talk about Harwich, we talk about all the leisure and the tourism. We forget, I represent the Oakleys and Wicks, a big farmland, rural, through the heartland, often forgotten. And I think tonight to see the chamber together actually supporting something that's so important that we actually continue to actually put food on the table. You're not 9 to 5 workers. If these councillors drive through these rural areas in the depth of the night or early as the morning darkness and see these tractors ploughing and actually providing food going onto the table for us, it is a crucial part of this district's geography and its lifeblood. And actually to see it supported tonight is great for me. Both of the motions, we're hitting it there, but I think obviously the amendment for me actually is stronger and it actually can see us going forward to actually deal with this. And I urge this council to get fully behind it. We know it's a national issue, but let's think about what we're elected for, to represent our residents and the farm communities amongst many others. We have the responsibility to protect their futures. These are family businesses that run for generations. They need to continue. We just don't want that land being sold off to pay debts when we're going to see other things on here and losing that food on our table and go back to importing food. Why do we want to do that? We want to keep growing our business, don't we, Mr. Henderson? As a growth person, we need to grow our business, not decimate it. Thank you.
Councillor Danlow. Councillor Danlow.
Thank you, Chairman. Very much echo the thoughts and feelings of what's been said already, but I have to blame my late grandfather, Sidney Coe, who farmed the land around Great Oakley that's just been mentioned at the lodge. I have a distinct interest in farming, and also if there's any spare part-time jobs going, I'm open to a bit of work. As many of you all sitting there will know, I like to look a bit further forward through this as well. Rightly or wrongly, I think the policy being put forward by government could also be being influenced by the wider world, in as much as these non-government organisations that want to seem to get hold of our very valuable and precious land for their own means and benefits, and it's not certainly benefits that I see forthcoming for the local people. The farmers sometimes can be known of, being able to squeeze 5 bungalows into a small piece of land or blocking a small country road that we might want to get through, but at the heart of this, the farming community are the backbone and the rock of society. You will find them, you will be able to gain advice from them, they will be able to clear a road for you in devious and dangerous weather conditions. They might be able to come and cut a tree down that's blocking a road, and they are the lifeblood, really, realistically, of what is produced and what goes into the supermarkets. And very, very pleased to support this motion, wore my coat especially for them, and I really do hope that everyone will vote very favourably to this motion now. Thank you.
Councillor Richard Everett.
Thank you. A little about me. As you all know, my surname is Everett. What you may not know is that the word Everett comes from the Anglo-Saxon and means swineherder. And while now my family is more used to herding cats, my antecedents have a long and significant history in farming. One of my grandfathers had a reserved occupation in the war because he was providing much needed food to the populace, a lesson we may need to take heed of in this time of increasing friction across the world. So tendering is disproportionately affected by another Rachel Reeve, the accountant's policy. This is the second big policy after the attack against our elderly that has hit us since the Labour Party took over government. Is this just the Labour Party being vindictive, or is it incompetence? Is this the most disastrous start to a government ever? I thought Liz Truss was bad. This is worse. Has it occurred to this Labour group on council that if you kill off our farms because it brings a little bit of money into the exchequer...
Can you stop a minute, please? This is a debate about tendering, not about national government.
Can I continue? Unfortunately, this isn't a game. It's real. One, I assume, left-wing intelligent person said that farmers choose to farm their own milk, but all they needed to do was go to Sainsbury's and get it off the shelf. Is this really the level of thinking with inner-city socialism today? Is that what we see here in this council? Now, it's important to take action to save our district and to support its farmers. All of this so far is based on colloquial evidence, not, I'm sure you would agree, the best evidence base. It is essential for the good of our district that we establish the facts so we can talk from a position of knowledge. This is why it's essential to support this motion. Thank you.
Peter Harris.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to echo my thanks as well to all the farmers that have made the trip here today. Thank you so much. And also thank you to all members for supporting this motion. Particular thanks to Councillor Guglielmi for the amendment, and also to Councillor Fairley, who I had spoken to prior to this meeting, and obviously, you know, we bow to her expertise and knowledge in this matter, coming from a traditional family, farming family. The farming community, the rural side of our district is absolutely huge, and is what makes tendering very, very special. People, when they think about tendering, sometimes think that it's just Clacton or it's Frinton, Walton, but there is, if they look over their shoulder, there is an absolutely huge area of beautiful countryside that they drive through to get to these towns, and they are as equally as important as the tourism that comes here. And thank you for everything you do, even when you keep me awake at night farming in the middle of the night, harvesting. But I'm extremely proud of what all of you do, and grateful for what you do as well. My only sort of reservation with this, and whilst I accept that, you know, the amendment has really taken it to government, my fear is, and the reason why I kept it local was because we kept it, control of it, and you know, my primary concern, whilst it concerns for farming across the UK, my primary concern is the tendering farmers. That's my primary concern, and I think that by sending a letter to Rachel Reeves, I'm not sure the government are going to listen. I mean, if they can freeze pensioners to death, 4,000 predicted, then what on earth are they going to do here? Are they going to change their mind? So I think that they're not going to listen. I fear for that. So I think that.
Peter, we're not debating that. Thank you.
Okay, but I'm saying I applaud it, and thank you very much. Thank you for members supporting it. Thank you.
Councillor Lisa Hastings. Sorry.
I'm not a councillor.
No, I know you're not. Sorry.
I'm not going to comment on whether I wish to be one or not. However, what I am going to say now, and this is as your monitoring officer, every single councillor in this room has signed up to the Code of Conduct. That Code of Conduct says that, I'll read it out to you to remind you. There are bits of it which actually you made a personal statement in which you said that you would, in accordance with the public trust placed in me on all occasions, I will act with integrity and honesty, act lawfully, and somebody didn't want you to hear me. It says, this is your personal statement which says that I will treat all persons fairly and with respect, and I will lead by example and act in a way that secures public confidence in the role of a councillor. I'm also going to read out a second part to you, which says, as a councillor, I will treat other councillors and members of the public with respect. I will treat local authority employees and representatives of other organisations and those volunteering with respect and respect in the role that they play. This is followed on by a statement which says, respect means politeness and courtesy in behaviour and speech and in the written word. Debate and having different views are all part of a healthy democracy. As a councillor, you can express, challenge, criticise and disagree with views, ideas, opinions and policies in a robust but civil manner. You should not, however, subject individuals, groups of people or organisations to personal attack. As you know, I wholeheartedly support democracy and the role that you play. But please, when you are debating issues in this chamber, you do so with respect and you give credence to this district council's reputation. Thank you.
Councillor Ivan Henderson.
Thank you, Chairman. And I think it's only right that I rise because my group did abstain, and I'll give the reasons for that. The amendment actually asked for a pause, and yet the whole implementation of this, the discussion which is here today on the back of the budget doesn't come into effect until 2026. So I'm sure there's going to be plenty of time for the NFU and all the pressure groups to actually still be bearing down on the government. As I did when I was MP for 8 years, I was not afraid and never refused to meet farmers on any occasion. I did visits, I had briefings with the NFU on any issues that they were concerned with. And I think Councillor Zoe Fairley actually summed some of this stuff up. This hasn't happened overnight as a result. The pressure was on the farmers. Hasn't happened overnight just because of this inheritance tax issue. It's actually happened for quite a while. And when you read some of the comments from the Farmers Weekly, just here it says, 7 years after Brexit, farmers count the cost. Increased red tape, worsening economic situation, damaging free trade deals, a trail of broken promises. That wasn't a Labour government, that was a Conservative government which has been in control. And they also, for the Reform members opposite, to actually be saying to us and show us their concern. And another comment, in a comment likely to anger and alarm many farmers, Mr Farage said cheaper food inputs would be just one benefit.
Ivan, we're going back to national
EU.
politics. Can we
Now,
stick to what we've
I'm just saying, I'm just talking about the impact of what's happened to farmers is that over a long period of time, and it's not just this, and I think the anger that farmers have shown is because they've struggled over that while. And I do think that also. I remember once I actually met a farmer and they said, do you know, when there's been a Labour government, we've actually seen some benefits. And I hope they'll recognise the £5 billion over the next two years for sustainable food production. So the government's not just sat back and saying they're not doing nothing for farmers, they are actually offering farmers that help. And on my last few seconds going, on the issue about information, there is a really good place where you can get the information that's required for reform members. It's the House of Commons Library. You can get it within 2 days. If you go there, ask them what you want. Their resources that they supply are really, really good. It didn't need to come to this chamber. You could have asked your MP to get it, and he would have given you that information straight away. So what I'd say is, on the issue of reform, it's just another opportunistic political opportunity to bring something to this chamber. Thank you, Chairman.
Carrie Doyle.
I just want to say that I'm surprised that the opposition did not think that we would support our community. That's, after all, what we're here to do. We would support our community wherever they work, whatever their issues are. I can't put claim to coming from a farming background. I'm a city dweller, that's where I'm from. But I eat the food that they produce, and I live here now. So of course I will put everything into supporting the people that live here's need. But I take umbrage on the view that you really believed that we would not support our people, because after all, the whole point of us being here is to support our people.
Councillor Bradley Thompson.
I was going to say something else, but after all the drama, I think I'll keep quiet now. But I'd like to say hats off to all the farmers. You do an amazing job, and continue. Thank you very much.
Councillor Gary Cower. Did you still want to speak? No.
Sorry, Chair. What I actually asked for was a point of council procedure because of the appalling comments made opposite. That's been superseded, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andy Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't going to speak, and I was totally undecided before I came into here. Having seen the amendment, I sat here and I thought, I'm not sure, really not sure. And having been approached by a couple of people on our side as to, do I abstain, what do I do? Having heard Councillor Fairley's comments and explained it, I think, as to how it affects. And we know that Zoe comes from a farming background, so she should know how it affects the farming community. And to see people actually come to this council to listen to us debate is good, because they've seen how we've debated, they've seen us make a decision, and I hope they're happy with it. We don't normally get hardly anybody turn up and listen to us, because some of the stuff we do is quite boring. But I'm very, very happy that Councillor Guglielmi, Councillor Fairley brought this amendment forward, and that we have supported it, and we will support the substantive motion. Thank you.
Councillor Gary Scott.
Thank you, Chairman, Councillors. Councillor Fairley, you hit the nail on the head. Your expertise in farming background, and as a fellow neighbour at Wards, and I represent a rural ward for the last over 20 years. But you think about what farmers do in our rural community. They don't just do the food, grow the food and graze the cattle and shear the sheep and everything else they do. They have to put up with people stealing their GPSs and their tractors. Rural crime. We have a vast rural district, and rural crime is high. There's also mention about fly tipping. I know there's fly tipping on the public roads, but But sometimes fly tipping gets dumped on farmers' field. That's another aggro they have to do, clear away fly tipping. Farmers don't want to get up in the middle of the early hours of the morning. I don't see 4 or 5, but I know farmers do get up even earlier, but they don't want to see a pile of tyres and asbestos dumped in the field. So I understand what the farmers go through. What Councillor Carlo Guglielmi said about the LGA is also spot on. They have a rural board there at the LGA with cross-party support on the rural board that talks about rural issues in the rural communities that can have the ear of the government in London. This council chamber is to talk about local issues. I understand that Councillor Harris has brought a motion forward to talk about inheritance tax, but we have no say. We can send letters here, then everywhere, but we need to support our rural communities. As a rural champion for TDC, I support what the farmers do. It creates jobs. Farmers then rent out their barns for small pop-up businesses, like in Great Bromley in my area. There's loads of areas in our community, in the rurals, that do a lot. What also has caused immense harm is Brexit. Subsidies. Subsidies that people, farmers out there, were promised. Subsidies. Oh, we will match the subsidies from like for like from the EU subsidies. But the previous Conservative government did not do that. There's one farmer I spoke to, and he said, well, if the government are going to bring this inheritance tax, why don't they delay it year by year by year, proving that the farmers continue to farm the said land? And if the farmer or the farming family wishes to then, okay, I've had enough and sell on, then inheritance tax would be liable. But I like the idea what this farmer said, delay the inheritance tax every year, forever it needs to be, until that farming family wishes to cease.
Time's up now, Gary, thank you.
Can I just say thank you very much?
Councillor Mark Cousins.
I was just going to, Mr. Chairman, ask that the motion be put. I think, you know, we're losing the goodwill of what the motion was about. Can we just put the motion to the vote?
Councillor Carlo Guglielmi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I just thank the leader and the administration for having supported my amendment, and I do. There are reasons why it came very late in the day. There was some mix-up in how it was going to be put, but it came, and I'm really grateful that you accepted it and that your group will be supporting it. I'm also very grateful to the monitoring officer for her intervention, because last meeting this council was going down a very slippery slope, and I was almost there to walk out of the room. We spent a huge amount of time and resources in addressing behaviour and reviewing the constitution to make sure that that kind of behaviour does not enter the chamber any longer. So I'm really glad that you stepped in this evening, Mrs. Hastings, and read out really what we all signed up to do. We spent a huge amount of time and resources on ensuring that that's going to be the case, and I very much hope that the lesson has been learned this evening. And I do not associate myself with some of the remarks that have been said in this chamber. I think most people know where I stand on this. Councillor Doyle talked about supporting the community. That's exactly what we're here for. That's our job. That's why we got elected. We've all got a part to play in that, in ensuring that all our residents get a fair share of what goes on, whether it's national, local, or county-wide. I think really Councillor Henderson explained the reason for abstaining, which, fine, it's a choice that he and his group has made, but I think really this was the straw that brought the camel's back. It was completely, I don't think there was a lot of awareness about the response and the reaction from the farming community in how this proposal was going to be accepted by that. You know, I would have loved to have gone to Westminster and been part of the history-making protest that was held there. I couldn't because of family commitment, but having said that, you know, I think this evening here we're making probably national news because we're the very first authority to actually send a really strong message that our amendment will now do. And it's very important that we ask to pause. I get that it's not going to happen until later next year, 2026, when it comes in, but we all know that unless you put the seed in and you get action underway, it will be the norm. And, you know, not that the farming community will let the government forget this, but, we are making history, as I said, nationally, and let's all kind of get together and put our support behind this motion and support our farming fraternity. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Lastly, Councillor Mark Stevenson. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And like Councillor Baker, when we first saw this, I wasn't quite sure which way to go. And don't apologise for 2 hours, normally only get 5 minutes, so I'll take 2 hours over 5 minutes. One thing I would say, Chairman, I don't know what's happening with this chamber, but when I was in the opposition on the opposite side, we talked about local issues and the motions I brought were local. They weren't national politics. And then we seem to fail to not recognise democratically elected people. We are those people, you know. If we don't like the result, that's tough. We went to a vote, we lost it, and now the Labour Party is in charge, just like this administration is in charge. Independents, Lib Dems and Labour. We want to talk about local things, and that's where we should stay. And I do believe that we should be talking about local farmers. And I deplore the language that some people have used tonight, yet again, and I do think that's a testament to themselves. I would like to say one thing about the reform motion. If that had come through without the amendment, it would not have passed. We would have voted that down at a heartbeat. And the only reason we would have voted it down because it didn't ask us to do anything. It asked us to collect a load of information and then come back to council and tell us what that information was. That didn't help farmers. I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have helped farmers at all. So, once again, we had a motion that came to council, no email, I've said it 3 times now. There was nothing coming forward, and yet we play it out in this lovely theatre. I did, however, get one email from somebody, Councillor Zoe Fairley, and we should probably set up the Councillor Zoe Fairley Appreciation Society the amount of times you've been mentioned tonight. But I think it's fair to say that everybody in the chamber, well before this motion, knew that Zoe was a champion for the farming community. And it's fair to say, and I'll take an extract from the email that Zoe sent to me, farmers support this council and their communities in many, many ways. They do deserve, for their contribution to our local economy and the concerns they have for the challenges they face, to be listened to and understood, and for TDC to consider what can be done at a local level to support. I think I'm fair to say we've answered that question for you. But it was also the email you attached from a farmer. And I won't go into what was said, and I won't disclose his details. The very last line he said, "We would welcome any help from the council is able to offer." He will know who that was. You will know you've done the job. And I think we've sat there and said, listen, and we're able to offer. So we'll be supporting the amendment and the motion as it currently is. And I think that's enough from me. Thank you very much.
I know the councillors indicated a speech, but I'll repeat what I said earlier, is we've had the closing, we've had the leader, so we're now going to the vote with the chairman's permission.
All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. If the farmers would like to leave, you can at this moment. You can stay. You're welcome to stay if you want to. Good night to you all. Item 10, report to the lead of the council, A1 urgent. You've already done the motion.
No, you done one.
Okay. I apologise, it's item 13. Motion to the council pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 12, changes to the National Planning Policy Framework, pages 91 to 92. Councillor Jeff Bray.
Thank you, Chairman. Motion to Council pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 12 submitted by myself in relation to changes to the National Policy Planning Framework. This Council notes and believes that the Government is currently undertaking a rewrite of the National Policy Planning Framework. Clear indications are that tendering will be burdened with a new housing supply target of 1,043 houses a year, a massive increase from our current requirement of 550 per year. We will be expected to build at the new rate for the full term of the local plan, some 15 years. Given that in the entire history of tendering district council we have never achieved a figure this high in any single year, it is beyond reasonable thinking to believe that we could do so for 15 consecutive years. The target set is quite simply unachievable. In addition, under the new proposal rules, we will be required to maintain a 5-year housing supply throughout. This will again be almost double our current proved and agreed need. The Government has chosen to take no account whatever of our local need or requirement when calculating the numbers, etc. Many councillors will, like us, not be able to reach their respective targets, meaning that a presumption in favour of development will be forced upon us, rendering our local plan all but useless. In turn, this will likely lead to unwanted and undesirable development across our district, as developers seek to gain planning permissions in places we would not normally consider to be in the interests of our current and future residents, whilst we will have no effective means of defence against such applications. Therefore, this council resolves that the leader of the council, Councillor Mark Stevenson, in consultation with the Director, Planning and Communities, that's very important, and on behalf of this council and the residents it represents, writes to Angela Rayner MP asking that further consideration be given to the current review of the National Planning Policy Framework in light of the Council's responses and replies to the Government's consultation to the same. 2, that this Council offers its thanks and full support to our planning officers regarding the responses given by them to the recent Government consultation. And 3, that whilst we seek to gain a more favourable outcome for our district, our officers will continue to do whatever they are able to in trying to reach the position currently expected in anticipation that our request is ignored or unsuccessful. Thank you, Chairman.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Peter Harris.
Yes, Chairman, I'd like to second that and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, just to confirm, there was no statutory advisory note on this motion.
Please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll certainly do my best. Those of us who've been here for some considerable time, when I go back to 2015-16, will remember the turmoil we suffered when our local plan fell out of date and wasn't effective. We will all remember words like the tilted balance and the presumption in favour of development. Anyone who was involved in any way with planning will remember that for many, many years in our past. It was devastating. It resulted in a situation where any time we refused an application, we would almost certainly be overturned at appeal. Not certainly, but almost certainly. That situation seems to be coming back to us with this proposal. I come from financial services, as many of you will know, and within financial services, many people work to targets. There are targets. I was at one time responsible for more than 100 people, and I set their targets. The one thing I understood about targets is you have to make them achievable. Once the target is not achievable, there's no point in having it. If everybody knows you can't reach the target, what is the point? This target is described by our officers as extremely challenging, and I think that's a very conservative description. It's more than extremely challenging. It's unlikely that we will ever be able to achieve it. And we're not just expected to achieve it for 1 year. We're expected to achieve it year on year, on year, on year, and to maintain that 5-year housing supply. Effectively, and we've heard the phrase fall off a cliff used many times in many different political arenas, but our local plan potentially falls off a cliff. In fact, more than potentially, in my opinion, it will. At that point, we will see developers making applications for developments that we would otherwise not consider sensible. It's in their interest to do so. I will have a little more to say at the end when I believe I get the opportunity to sum up. But for the moment, we must protect our residents, because as a councillor from the other side said a moment ago, we support our communities. And by flooding our area with housing in this way, without the infrastructure to support that housing, that doesn't support communities, and it doesn't support our people. I ask you please to give serious consideration to this. We must ask the government to reconsider, in line with the consultation responses sent to them by our very, very good officers. Thank you, members.
Perfect, Councillor Brown. Debate, sorry, the debate. Councillor Andy Baker.
Chairman, I think it would be wrong of me not to speak. I wasn't going to, but yes, I remember 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, until we actually got a local plan. We took a long time. It took a long time when we had the local plan committee to get our local plan through with 550 homes. Now, personally, I've publicly stated that I think it's outrageous that we are being imposed upon by central government. Where is the democracy in that? I don't think it's right. Personally, that's not the view of this cabinet. I'm not speaking for my cabinet colleagues, I'm speaking from me. However, you've got 3 parts to your motion, Councillor Bray. I meet with the Director of Planning and Communities every week, and we discuss lots and lots of things, this being one of them, obviously, and where the local plan is. So 2 and 3 are already being done. They're done weekly. I always say thank you to our officers whenever I see them, because I know what a hard job they have when suddenly the goalposts change overnight and everything they've done for the last 18 months is put in the bin. And we responded to this council responded to the consultation on the MPPF. Councillor Guglielmi chairs the Planning Policy and Local Plan Committee, and you had a very, very robust and interesting debate, obviously, at which I was at. And then you decided that there were some things you wanted put in, and I just checked an email, and they were put in, and I agreed, and they were sent off. I don't see, personally, what the point is of writing to Angela Rayner again. The consultation has closed. They will look at all the responses. We do not know what the result of that consultation is likely to be. So I think this is a little bit premature, and unfortunately I will not be supporting your motion. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Carlo Guglielmi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Councillor Baker must have read my mind. Not much else I can add to that, besides the fact that we made a very strong point in our consultation response, because at the moment these are proposals. They've not been finalised. We all know that if they've got the majority, if they want to push them through, they push them through. I like to think that they might take some of our comments into consideration. The safety net that we talked about, to stop falling from 6.7, I think, year land supply down to potentially 2 or 3 years land supply, and there will be a vacuum. And the scenario that Councillor Baker did talk about, alluded to, might very well happen again, God forbid. But I agree completely with what's been said. It's not something that we advocate. It's not something that we'd like to see again, to have all this unwanted development that really bizarrely pushed us into the very enviable position of having 6.7 years land supply. But all this development, mustn't forget, it all came without the proper infrastructure in place. There were a lot of piecemeal applications that had to be approved, and all the vital schools and surgeries and roads and other supporting services were not part of that because of the way in which they come forward. And this is a scenario that we might be looking at if we don't get a safeguard in place, as we mentioned very strongly in our consultation response. The local plan and the planning policy local plan committee, which I chair, debated this, and I've got to say that the presentation we were given was one of the driest presentations I've ever had to listen to, because it is, what can you say to that, And I like to think that there's nothing else really to add at this stage until we get the results of what the outcome is that the government will see fit to impose or not, as the case may be. But the one thing that really we talked about is the impossibility of delivering 1,049 dwellings per year. That would require a massive amount of innovation and inventiveness, if you like. And the other point that Councillor Baker made is the amount of time that we spent together with officers drafting the proposal that we were going to go to consultation, and how hard they worked to meet the deadlines, because we're still working for the deadline submission of June 25, which is not far away. And of course, as you said, it's all gone in the bin, forget it, and start again. So really, nothing else for me to add, but to support that. And the motion really, it doesn't going to do anything that we already highlighted. Thank you.
Spot on, Carla. Councillor Paul Hollywood, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Listen to what Councillor Baker said, and I'll listen to Councillor Guglielmi. And I've also listened to the opening by the councillor putting forward this motion. And the bit that worries me is the presumption in favour of development. Anyone who's been on this council for a while knows what that means. We saw it before. My concern is that this figure is unachievable. Some people have whispered in my ear that these numbers were meant to be unachievable. I don't know if that's true or not, and will give us this presumption towards development. That's what worries me. Now, I hear what Councillor Baker says, we could hold fire. But should we hold fire until the decision is made and the ink is dry on the legal document, when it's too late? I don't think so. Last time we had the big numbers, we fought all the way, made our views known, made our concerns known. And I think we should do it this time. We could wait and say nothing, and then there's nobody complaining, so yeah, tendering's happy, they haven't moaned again. I think we should put another response, a reminder, we are concerned. These numbers aren't achievable, and we're going to be suffering for what some have called open season for developers. So is the motion perfect? No, it's not. Would I like to have seen it worded a bit better? Yes, I would. But it's what's on the table, and that's why I'm going to support it. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor John White.
Thank you, Chairman. It's an interesting motion that we've got in front of us. And I know that our officers have already put an exceptionally good case against the figures that have been suggested to us. What seems to be missed, that I'm not going to support the motion, but what does seem to be missed, if we were to grant planning permission for the 1,000 plus, which is a ridiculous figure as we all agree, and should we have granted it, it's in the hands of the developers. We all know we've already got 6 years of planning applications that are being granted, and the builders say it's not viable. We couldn't sell them if we built those houses. And what do? They hang on to the bit of land, and the land value goes up and up and up until it might be viable. To say that the government is going to alter the rules to force us to do this, they don't seem to be attacking the right place. They should be going against the developers. As I say, we've had six and a half years of planning applications that are not being taken up at the present moment because the developers say it isn't viable, they couldn't sell the properties. But my own views are that we should wait. I think our officers have put a damn good argument to the government, and hopefully that will be successful. Let's wait and see what we get. I understand that the announcements are not too far away, so let's wait and see. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Mark Cousins.
I was going to say, I mean, it's an interesting motion, but I mean, I think there was comment that sort of 2 and 3 have been covered, but I think 3 is actually deficient as well, because, I mean, both the Councillor Cossenses have suffered from this presumption in favour of planning because, you know, round Kirby we've had an awful lot that was built because we never had a local plan in place. And what I find deficient in item 3 is that we talk about that whilst we seek to gain a more favourable outcome for our district, our officers will continue to do whatever they're able to in trying to reach the position currently expected. Now, I read that as actually come up with some solutions as how we actually come forward with a lot more housing than we have achieved, but then we already knew that the new local plan would be on a greater figure. This is just an even greater figure than that. But I think what this 3 misses is that I think as its officers and councillors, because I think we need to be pragmatic and I think we need to be looking for solutions. I totally agree with that we need to fight what's coming forward from government all the way, but I think as councillors we need to be pragmatic in actually looking at potential solutions. I mean, some of us sit on the garden, the work being done on the garden community at the moment. I think potentially as we go forward we have to look at maybe taking what we've learnt and doing something here. And I think we need to be honest that if it does come to it at the end of the day and something's forced on us, I think we have a duty not to just say the officers have to start to think about a solution, but I think we as councillors do. And that's what I don't like about this, is that it's leaving it only to officers. And I think as councillors we have a duty as leaders of our communities to come up with potential, you know, solutions to what is being forced on us. But I do agree that we need to fight the figures being forced on us, because I don't think they are achievable. But I think we do need to be putting councillors in there and not just officers. We need to be pragmatic to come up with solutions.
Councillor Gary Carver, please be seated, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to bring this back to a far simpler point. Nearly everybody who has spoken so far has praised the response that our officers have put into the consultation. It has been described as excellent. If we don't wait for the outcome of the consultation and how our officers' excellent response is dealt with, we are almost saying that we haven't got faith in our officers' response and believe we need to go ahead of the response to it. I think that is undermining the wonderful work that our officers have done, and we should show more faith in the excellent work that our officers have done and wait to see what the outcome to that work is. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Everett.
Thank you, Chair. I just want us to consider one word: disproportionate. We've had a number of issues in the last couple of meetings here that government policy has disproportionately affected our community. The one we're talking about now is a disproportionate effect on planning. Previous ones were a disproportionate effect on farming and a disproportionate effect on the elderly. Now I ask you to consider, what does that mean to us as a community? Why are we having disproportionate effects on us here from government policy? Thank you.
Councillor Gary Scott.
Thank you. Councillor Baker said it, Councillor Carver said it, Councillor Carlo Guglielmi said it. We have very good officers here. They've put a response in to the government. These are well-employed, experienced officers. Gary Guyver has been here as long as I have as a district councillor. He is a very experienced officer and he works well with Councillor Carlo Guglielmi and Councillor Baker. The Local Plan and Policy Committee is there to put information and details to London through their consultation. Why on earth would we support this? Seriously, we have good officers. We have officers that do a lot here. And I won't be supporting this motion because I think it's what would that say to our officers and the work that Councillor Carlo Guglielmi has done on the Local Plan and Policy Committee and what the work that Councillor Baker's done as planning portfolio holder. This is a waste of time in my view. I really, really think we should don't support this and put our support in the officers that put something, a consultation, a letter to the government. I just can't believe it. Thank you.
Councillor Peter Harris.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I can't believe it either, what I'm listening to. Can we all agree that our officers have done a great job in defending this and are putting through a good, robust response? What this is about supporting them, and it's about making sure that we stand up for our residents and to fight tooth and nail. Councillor Bray will tell you how he fought tooth and nail to keep the numbers down to 550 a year when he was told it was impossible, and basically he fought to keep those numbers down and succeeded. So far from actually causing a problem for our officers, this will actually support them, and it will actually also send a message out to our residents that we are defending this. This is a disastrous government policy, yet another one that's coming before us. And, our villages that we see...
Can we just keep it
know
to what we're talking about, please?
Sorry? Yes. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, I think I was actually, but Chairman. I think others have brought in all sorts of things, including Brexit and all sorts, but there you go. In terms of this government is forcing these numbers onto us. They are setting us up to fail. We are not going to achieve these numbers. And in terms of the builders, someone said that we should blame the developers. Well, developers haven't got the skilled staff. They haven't got the bricks. And it's also, they haven't got the will to do it, to build thousands and thousands and thousands of new houses, because any businessman knows it's supply and demand. And if you put a glut of houses on the market, the price comes down and the builders are going to earn less money. So I don't think that that's going to work. In terms of, to give you an idea of how long they take to build, the 280 houses that are going to be built in Wheelie, the builder's going to take 6 years to build them. 6 years. That's facts. I've spoken to them. You can sit there and shake your head as much as you like, Councillor Henderson, but at the end of the day, that's how long it's got to take. So I will be supporting this. I think that we should support this and fight and tell this government that we're not happy with this and it's not acceptable. So I will be accepting this and urge members to do that as well. Thank you.
Councillor Bradley Thompson.
Yeah, like some of my colleagues have already said, this is still under consultation and we don't know what's coming back. But I'd like to ask one question to Peter Harris. We have an MP, Nigel Farage, who you spend a lot of time with. Can you tell us if you've actually spoken to him about this issue, raised this issue, and what he's actually dealing to do with it? Thank you very much.
Chairman, if I can remind the members, as Mrs Hastings said to councillors earlier, about this is not a question time for members across the chamber. You make your points, and then you on your debate, and then you vote on it. It is not question time. Thank you.
Councillor Jeff Bray.
Thank you, Chairman. A lot to pick up on there. Listen to all of the comments that came in. You're right. We have the best officers I know. I work very closely with Gary Guyver, our head of planning. He's brilliant. He's better than brilliant. The consultation responses our officers put in were superb. They were excellent. I'm not undermining it. I want to support it. Our officers have told government they've got it wrong through the consultation. We, as the elected representatives of the people, shouldn't be afraid to support that, should we? We are here to represent our community, to represent the people in our community. And I'm not sure that too many of our residents would understand why we were afraid to say to the government, hey guys, you've got this wrong. How many of our residents would understand why we weren't prepared to speak for them, given that that's what they elected us to do? We are community leaders. We should have a voice. As a council, we should have a voice. As individual councillors, we should have a voice. In fact, we represent thousands of voices. So I see no reason why we shouldn't put our support behind our officers. Yes, we have the professional opinion, which is our officers. Let's have the residents' voice as well. Why not both? What are we afraid of? Why are we afraid to ask government to think about something that we all know is wrong? We know it's wrong. Why are we afraid to say so? What are we scared of? I don't understand. But let's pick up on a couple of issues that came out. Wait. Let's wait until the consultation is complete. Well, we could do that. But if we wait until the decision is made, it won't be unmade. If you want to influence any decision, and any one of us knows this, you need to influence it before the decision is made, because once it's made, it's made. So I agree with Councillor Honeywood when he said, let's not wait for the ink to dry on the paper. He's absolutely right. Let's not wait for the ink to dry on the paper. If we're going to do something, let's do something. Let's stand up for our people. Let's be their voice. That's what we're here for. I have no interest, particularly in political issues, political parties. I'm a member of a political party, but I don't see my rosette as more important than my residents. My residents are first. Well, I'll answer that question very quickly because I have changed the colour of my rosette, but unlike some members who've been a member of a party that supported nuclear disarmament, then didn't, then did, what I've never done is change my principles, and I'll leave that there. I won't change my principles, I will change my rosette. Thank you, Chairman. I ask you to support this. We need to speak for our
Time
people.
up.
Thank you.
Councillor Andy Baker.
Chairman, can I just remind, when the proposer has spoken, then it goes back to the last speaker. It can either be the portfolio holder or the leader, and I thought it was the portfolio holder. Sorry, it was the leader. Apologies, Chairman, that was me.
Apologies to the Chief Exec. He did ask me, and I did point to Councillor Baker, and what I really meant to do was point to myself. So apologies for that one. Right, where do I start? Okay, we've already sent a letter. It's already been established. We've done this for residents. It's like you think we don't think of them. We've been sitting here over and over and over again saying, in the last motion, we're about local people. And this was what we've done. So we sent this letter to Angela Rayner. Jump. Yeah? But we didn't stop there. And as Councillor Calver said, made an excellent point about our officers, many people have, but I don't need to have more faith in them because I have absolute faith in them. You know? And part of the question that I would ask is, what else did you do? Well, I got hold of the other 7 councils that form the North Essex. And I went to the North Essex Council and I wrote a letter through our councillor Gary Guyver to Angela Rayner on behalf of all our 8. And when I say I, that's the royal I, because most of the work, in fact, I'm going to say all the work was done by our very wonderful Gary Guyver. And he is worth a mention because he had 2 whole days to put a presentation in front of 8 chief execs and 8 leaders, which were all cross-party, and they all happily signed off on that letter. Let's talk about cross-party. Cross-party's worked here. It's part of the planning policy and local plan, a committee that you yourself sit on, Councillor Bray. So that went there. You had the opportunity to make sure that anything you needed saying was in that letter. And Councillor Baker took all the recommendations from what I am aware of and put them in that letter that went. In fact, we were so keen to make sure that that letter went through across party that we had to get an exemption from Councillor Graham Steady in order to make it happen on time. It's premature. It's as simple as that. A consultation, if we were to do one and things came in afterwards, would they be allowed? Of course they wouldn't. We wouldn't allow them because the consultation is finished. That's why it has a deadline. You know, you can't then suddenly say, actually, we'll have a little bit more because tendering wants it. You know, it's done. And to sit there and say that our officers need thanking, well, Andy does that to Gary Guyver nearly every day because we appreciate our officers and think they're absolutely brilliant. And I have never said anything different. In fact, it was only recently one of my portfolio holders went to Essex and he came back and goes, my God, we're a friendly bunch here. You know? This isn't about national politics. This isn't about electioneering for the next Essex election. This is a waste of time motion. You know, it's already been done, and I'm happy to go to vote on it, Chairman. I'm done with it. Thank you.
Can we go to the vote, please? All those in favour?
Just to clarify, if I can just clarify what the going to the vote. You are now voting on the motion which is before you, as per Councillor Bray's motion before you, which I won't read out in full, but commences the council notes and believes, and therefore this council resolves that. And then there's points 1, 2, and 3, which is on page 91 of your agenda, going on to page 92. You are voting on that. The question from the chairman was all those in favour of that motion. Thank you.
Those against? Abstentions? So the vote is lost. Item 14. Item 14, reference from the Cabinet A2 Local Plan Tax Support Scheme 2025 to 26, discretionary council tax exemptions, discounts, premiums 2023 to 26, and the annual minimum revenue provisions policy statement 23 to 26. It's pages 93 to 152.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a bit of a mouthful, that one. We good? Okay. So the Local Council Tax Support Scheme, so the LCTS, just to make life easy for us, we love an acronym. This report sets out the continuation of stability for residents that we saw in previous years. This remains an important consideration, especially when the continuing and challenging economic climate. You may recall the decision from last year where we extended the banding associated with our long-term empty properties, which meant a council tax premium being chargeable after a period of just 1 year instead of 2. At the same time last year, we also agreed to introduce a council tax premium of 100% on second homes for the 1st of April 2025. There is no deviation proposed from this earlier decision, and for the reasons set out in the report, it is still our intention to recommend to this council that a 100% council tax premium on second homes is implemented from the 1st of April 2025. We have listened to the feedback we have received from second homeowners during the year, and although the points they raise as set out in the report are acknowledged, the council is always having to balance this with the principles behind the introduction of such a premium. This relates to encouraging a permanent population and the economic community benefit that it brings. Having said that, along with the government, we accept that there will always be exceptions with such premiums are not appropriate. Therefore, alongside the introduction of a second homes premium, the government have introduced a number of exceptions. So for the relevant periods, no council tax premium will be chargeable. These exceptions are also extended to long-term empty properties as necessary. As was mentioned last year, the introduction of council tax premiums is not about making money, but about trying to increase the number of properties available for local people, along with maximising the size of the permanent population within the district. We have also made a few changes to the annual minimum revenue provision policy, get your mouth around that, statement, to reflect updated guidance. As set out in the report, it has no impact on the council directly, as we've always taken a pragmatic and reasonable approach to related issues, unlike some authorities who have taken a much riskier approach, which never pays off in the end. Apart from the confirmation of the introduction of a council tax premium on second homes, everything else is proposed to remain broadly unchanged. And I look forward to introducing this item at the next council, which I just did. Thank you very much.
Don't need a second, then we go straight to the vote, please. Any against? No. So that's carried. Item 15, reference from the Cabinet A3, adoption of revised gambling licences, policy statement, pages 153 to 190. Mark. Okay.
Chairman, as I am a name on a gambling licence, I will remove from the council chamber. Thank you.
You're escorting him.
Councillor Mark Stevenson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll make it brief. Mr. Chairman, Cabinet recently considered a report from the Licensing and Registration Committee setting out its recommendations in relation to the adoption of a revised gambling licence policy statement. The policy statement sets out how this council, as the licensing authority, will regulate gambling activities within the district. Whilst for the majority of the general public, gambling is an enjoyable and often social experience, it can be for some individuals a largely hidden addiction, which taken to excess can have an adverse impact on finances, health, well-being and relationships. The well-being of our residents is a key priority for the council, and the gambling policy has a role to play in supporting this priority through its control of gambling premises. The new revised policy statement is clear and understandable and will be significant use to the council, its partners and operators when considering gambling matters. I'm happy to move the recommendation, Chairman.
All those in favour? Any against? Okay, thank you. That's carried, thank you. Item 16, reference from the Cabinet A4, climate change target date, amended pages 191 to 260.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to move this one. Also, I think the climate change, we need to understand where we've come from. The successes, both from the previous administration and our own, because it crossed both. There are successes to recognise under the previous 2020 Action Plan. The Jowick Sunswap Business Units and Marketplace won a National Planning Award for brownfield regeneration and is an A-rated building that opened in 2023. The building is designed to conserve heat, and there are plans to include solar panels which will bring it up to an A+ rating for energy performance. Consolidation of the estate and moving from the council site in Wheelie, which has powered by a carbon-intensive oil-fired boiler. We have successfully applied to the Swimming Pool Support Fund to install an energy-efficient air handling unit at Walton-on-the-Naze Lifestyles. Pool covers have been installed in all leisure centres, which conserve energy from swimming pools and installation of LEDs to reduce the electricity demand, which complements the LEDs installed in the theatre. Carnarvon Terrace and Victoria Street, which are part of a wider Levelling Up Fund projects for Clacton and Dovercourt, are currently being designed to environmental performance sustainability way above building regulations. Technical design work completes on the Clacton Town Hall hybrid boiler system, which will be significantly more efficient than existing boilers. And as you've just heard, our very own sheltered housing team has just delivered Honeycroft, 13 bungalows, all fitted with solar panels, air source heating pumps and underfloor heating, electric charging for vehicles, and are rated A+, which is as close to a passive house as it gets. What does this all boil down to? These days we measure savings in the reduction of carbon emissions. Our most recent data suggests that emissions reductions by this council since 2018-19 has saved 552 tonnes of carbon directly and 265 tonnes reduction through our supply chain, the majority of which came from the Veolia fleet of waste vehicles. So what's in store for the future? In 2024, the specialist firm APSI reported on the action required to meet the 2030 net zero ambition. In its report, it was estimated that to meet the target by 2030, it would require investment of £18 million at a time when the council is required to find substantial savings. As the council cannot financially and sustainably meet its 2030 ambition, it is recommended that the council aligns its target date to reach the net zero to the national government target date, which is currently set at 2050. Aligning with the national target means that government policy, regulation and funding required to meet net zero will be brought forward to enable the council to meet with what remains a challenging ambition. It also means that innovative low-carbon technologies will have time to mature and become more cost-effective. The APSI report is contained within the document in front of you tonight and champions our desire to be net zero by 2050, but to do so in a financially sustainable way. There is still much to explore, such as the report covers in biodiverse net gain, water usage and climate adaptation, and this report touches on all three of those important threads. Chairman, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Item 17, reference from the Cabinet A5, adoption of the social value policy, pages 261 to 292. Councillor Mark Stevenson.
Thank you again, Chairman. Seems like I've got an up-down seat. I'm covering this one for Councillor Cox today. He's unfortunately ill and unable to join us. But we share the same passion along with Councillor Guglielmi, where we have had many conversations, both in opposition and administration, about how this council can use its financial contracts to gain social value within the community. This has come forward, I can only say, by the excellent work of Lisa Hastings, and I'm going to say our wonderful monitor officer, and her exceptional team. Let's be clear, Tendering's leading on this with other districts, and Ms Hastings has done an excellent job in making sure that we have one of the most robust policies, and I'm going to say it's going to be the one that Essex probably adopts, he says, hopefully. Social value is an important part of what this council can do. It can provide jobs, it can provide a whole host of things. And I think I haven't done it justice tonight, because I'll be honest, I haven't been prepared, because I was expecting Councillor Cox to do it, but he was unfortunately taken ill with us tonight. But I will still commend the policy. You know, I've done a lot of work around it, and I move the recommendations. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Carly Guglielmi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, of course, it's absolutely delightful that the council now has a social value policy in place. It was a long item of debate between Councillor Hastings, between Mrs Hastings and I. You will become a councillor one day. One of our Essex colleagues drafted and put in place an excellent one, but they where absolutely everything they did was governed by the social value policy, whether this was not meant to be mirroring what they did, but it enshrines that value in everything that the council does. And we also act as a way to get developers and other people out there to lead by, to copy our example. So really, this is, I'm delighted that it's now put in place. And right at the beginning, when we didn't have a policy in place, there were reports where social value had been kind of inserted, even though there wasn't a policy agreed by the council. So I'm delighted that this is here. And I'd like to also say that the council already did quite a lot of what this policy does. And it's not that's something new, but it will be second nature for a lot of officers whenever they, especially when contracts are awarded. I note the 100,000 limit. I think I agree with that, but you know, I've had a discussion with that, but you know, it's there, and I'm glad it's in place. They will have to give regards to that policy, which is, it'll be part of their DNA, and going forward, it can only benefit even more our residents. So I do commend the policy, and like I said, it was a great pleasure trying to get it off its embryonic stage and to see it materialise. Thank you.
Go to the vote, please. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Item 18, report submitted to the Council by Overview and Scrutiny Committee. There is none. Okay. Item 19, report of the Chief Executive, A6 Community Governance Review for Clacton on Sea, Holland on Sea and Jaywick Sands, pages 293 to 332.
Thank you, Chairman. To start, and on behalf of the Council, I want to thank the Chief Executive for submitting this report to tonight's meeting. We collectively asked for this report at our last meeting. With cross-party support, this Council on the 17th of September recognised that there were strong grounds for considering a community governance review of the 3 areas that are currently unparished in the district. The report sets out for us the legal position, the statutory guidance that concerns these things. There is then a set of terms of reference for a community governance review.
Councillor Stevens, can you stop, please?
Sorry, can we ask for you can move the motion, get a seconder, and then you can speak to it. Thank you.
No problems. You want to do it that way? Could I have a seconder, please?
Well, throwing things about. Chairman, I'm happy to second that and reserve my right to speak.
To you now, Mark.
Okay. I'm not going to start again. I'm just going to pick it up from the middle. Right, so where were we? The report sets out the legal position, the statutory guidance that concerns these things. There is then a set of terms for reference for a community governance review and the internal mechanism to facilitate recommendations coming back to Council. As such, with this report in front of us, we have a stepped approach to take. Firstly, we need to determine whether this Council will trigger a community governance review of the review area. If we decide not, then that is the end of the process here and now. If we say no to the community governance review, there is still the other routes that could trigger such review, but they would be for the future. If we vote yes to a community governance review, then recommendations B to D in the report provide the steps to progress the review. Cabinet will need to make the finances available, and community leadership, OSC, Overview and Scrutiny, will be the relevant committee to bring recommendations back here. Personally, I would want that to be Cabinet, but I recognise that it is a non-executive function, and so it cannot be Cabinet. Community Leadership Overview and Scrutiny Committee seems a sensible route for overseeing this process and submitting proposals back to full Council. Returning to the if we say yes or no to the community governance, I believe it is time for Holland Sea residents to have the very local voice of a parish council that so many other residents across the district and country have. I cannot see why Little Clacton, Great Holland or St Joseph, to name but 3, have their very local voice to channel their views and shape their place that they live in, and Holland Sea doesn't. Likewise for residents in Clacton on Sea and Jaywick Sands. However, and it is a big however, I won't be imposing a parish council on Holland on Sea residents or Clacton or Jaywick. The heart of the community governance review is that we consult, we engage with local residents and ask their views. So a yes vote to recommendation A is to say we want to give local people in the review area the chance to have their say. Surely we owe it to residents to give them the facts and let them express their views. But it's even more than that, because there would be then a second round of consultation, where again, before anything gets put in stone, local residents get the second bite of the cherry. This report makes it clear, and we are obliged to listen to the views of local residents. That is what we're being invited to prove, and I'm happy to propose this to full Council.
Councillor Chris Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As some of you have probably been aware over the last 20 years, I haven't been one of the most, shall we say, forward champions of town councils. However, with the spectre of local government democracy or reorganisation coming upon us, times have changed. My views have also been changed, to be honest, by when I've looked at what's been achieved at Harwich and in conjunction with Harwich Town Council and some of the works that they've done there. And I believe that it's time to give consideration to a town council for Clacton and possibly Holland and Jaywick, And I fully endorse the leader's view that it's time to give the people of Clacton their say on their direction. I believe as a local representative, it's only right that local people in Clacton and the surrounding areas have the chance to decide where they want to go with their town and if their town needs a local voice. I fully endorse this new review. I look forward to the report from the overview and scrutiny and possibly even taking part in it. But I really do think that this should be encouraged, as we have nothing to fear by asking the people in which direction they want local democracy in our town to go now and in the future. Thank you.
Councillor Gary Scott.
Thank you, Chairman. 100% support what Councillor Griffiths said. I do appreciate it because Councillor Griffiths and I have been here as 20 plus years, and I remember Councillor Griffiths opposed to town parish councils for Clacton area, and now as a change. It's always good to people to change their minds on things. I represent a ward where we have 4 parish councils, and we have a really good working relationship. Myself and Councillor Wiggins, who represent Ulster Nelson Ward, we have residents who come to our town and parish council meetings. And they talk about the smallest thing in their road, in their community, about their community centre, about the play area, about a bin that should be moved there or there. It's the small things that people in communities actually do care about. And the advantages of having a town and parish council, you can then go look for grants to get extra money in for something that maybe the council may be able to get or use their precept. They can use external money and grants to pay for things that's in their parish areas. So I welcome this review, and I think the residents of Clacton, Holland and Jaywick would also welcome the review because they will benefit. They can turn up to a town and parish meeting, talk to the parish or town councillors and have a word with their chairman of their town or parish council and say, oh, by the way, do you know about that sign or that bin needs emptying or whatever. I think the benefits are great. And with local government reform, Councillor Griffiths has mentioned local government reorganisation further. We could have a situation where those 3 communities may not have a voice. This is an opportunity to put that mechanism in place for those 3 communities to have a voice if local government reorganisation goes ahead in the future. I'm also a parish councillor myself, so declaring interest as parish councillor, but the benefits are great. The people out there will see it, and I welcome this review. Thank you.
Councillor Bradley Thompson.
Hello. Like I said 2 months ago at the last council, I fully support the motion going forward. It's about the residents getting their voice heard, getting a say in what the community are doing and voting people in. My only worry about this, it was said 25 years ago was the last time Jaywick Sands had a last voice. It happened a lot recently. Dan Casey can probably tell you himself. Twice this has come before a parish council and twice the residents turned it down. Now, I know for certain areas it is good to have a parish council. I'm not against that. But this has been turned down twice and it needs to be looked at more in Jaywick than anywhere else. Thank you very much for your time. I will be supporting this, but I will keep an extra eye out on anything that happens. Thank you.
Councillor Paul Hollywood.
Thank you, Chairman. There's 1 or 2 things I'd like to raise with this. Firstly, I'm concerned about the cost. Not the 48.4k, but the follow-up minimum sum. I'm afraid I won't go into citing cases, but we've had issues where money's ran away with us, so that kind of bothers me. The fact it says 48.4 minimum sum. That's on page 293. Secondly, I know I've mentioned this before with Councillor Stevenson. Do we have the capacity? He assures me we do. But we've all been discussing, whether we like it or not, LGR, local government reorganisation, and devolution, and the looming white paper. they're a few weeks away. My view would be hold fire and see what's in that white paper. That's my personal view. So from my side, I'll be abstaining from the vote. I think it's going to go through. That's how it is. But from my point of view, I'm a little bit concerned about this at this point in time. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Jeff Bray.
Thank you, Chairman. Historically, as most people know, I've always abstained out of issues relating to Clacton, Jaywick and Holland town councils, but it's clear that giving people the opportunity to decide for themselves is always the right thing to do. So I'm very happy to support. I think Councillor Thompson referred to the twice previously that Jaywick have rejected this, and we mustn't forget, of course, that having a town or parish council involves a precept, and that means we have to encourage everybody to have their council tax increased, which is not always the easiest thing in the world to do. Parish and town councils gather a precept through the council tax. A couple of times already, just to add one more thing, a couple of people have mentioned the local government review, and that is coming towards us. The white paper comes out in January. I do have some concerns about that, and it's certainly not a done deal yet, so this is the time to have concerns before it is a done deal. There are concerns, and some of those range around our position as a council that's in a relatively, compared to many others, strong financial position being amalgamated with councils who are not. That, I think, could prove very difficult for this district, and so I would urge people, everybody, all members, please, when the white paper comes out, I'm not going to tell people what they should think, but I would strongly recommend that everybody gives it a very serious read. It's not a done deal yet. Let's have a look and see what comes. As for the town councils, yes, of course we should ask the people, and I'll happily support that. Thank you.
Councillor Andy Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to support this. I think it's a good idea. I have voted against this twice in the past because that wasn't the time. However, times change. I'd just like to publicly say that this is a review. That's what we're going to agree, a review, and then the terms of reference and everything else. It is not a done deal. If residents and other organisations say, nope, stupid idea, it dies in the water. But at least give everybody the chance. And I would encourage all councillors, all Clacton councillors, all Holland councillors, Jaywick councillors, to respond. Because otherwise you're not representing the people that you represent. Thank you.
Councillor Carla Gubriani.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm probably the only one in this chamber that has sat on a parish council since 1987. 3 years, I'll be 40 years. And I think Councillor White's been longer than me, and Councillor Talbot's been longer than me, so I've forgotten that small detail there. And we all know that some councils work extremely well, and as has been mentioned, they have an extra layer of tax on that because obviously enables them to do projects as they see fit, and there is no cap on what that preset is increased year after year. I think we have a very good scrutiny committee that could really set up a very useful working group where all the councillors from the Clacton area should sit on it. And this was briefly touched on, not as explicitly as it was on the other night when we received a very excellent members' briefing on the subject. And I also suggested at the same time a review should be carried out on other areas where councils could have a much stronger voice if they were to work together with their close neighbours. Indeed, we tried this in my area, Lawford, Manchester, Mistley, and there potentially some of the, we didn't ask those councils close to us, but potentially that could be something that could be considered. And unless you start asking the question for people, you're not going to know. But I really strongly feel that the community leadership that Councillor Steady chairs should have a dedicated group made up by the council from Clacton. Because, I mean, what we got in front of us, it's the Clacton, Holland-on-Sea and Jaywick stands. There's no other areas mentioned in there, but I think consideration should be given to what I said, but this working group should look at all the pitfalls and that. But in principle, I'm not at all against the idea, but let's wait and see what people have to say. Thank you.
Councillor Seamus.
Thank you, Chairman. I shall be supporting this motion. What was I going to say? Yeah, I've got some concerns, as Councillor Honeywood has, about the cost. And when it does go to the referendum, whether the public will want to, pay extra money on their council tax. That's my only concern. But yeah, I'll just see what happens. Thank you.
Councillor Dan Land.
Thank you, Chairman. I know there's many that have served on parish councils here, as has been explained for some time, but I take a particular view on this as a councillor sitting on 4 councils and a clerk to 2 of these parish councils, sort of trying to get 4 to 15 people out of their warm houses watching EastEnders once a month as volunteers into a very cold hall. Can become quite challenging and cumbersome, and I praise all of them that take the time to do it every month, reoccurring. But what I will say, just to wrap up quickly, is that I think parish councils make some of the most defining and continuous movements of improvement for the general public within their communities than any other councils above them. And and I sit on all those councils, but I see it from the ground level, and I'm sure many will agree with me. Some of the little things you can do having a town or parish council is just so rewarding and so uplifting for the general public that sit within those villages and towns. So yeah, I hope the people consider it seriously, and I also would like to just place emphasis on the fact that it doesn't have to be expensive. It can be a very small amount on your council tax bill, and for that small amount you can get a very, very lot.
Councillor Gary Carver, please, where you in CD, Gary?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make reference. First of all, thank Councillor Griffiths for his very kind words about Harwich Town Council, which all of the Labour councillors present tonight are members of, and take up the point that Councillor Thompson made about Jaywick twice voting against it. Now, at that time, there was such a massive amount of scaremongering that went round about how much it was going to cost the residents of Jaywick, and they were quite understandably worried sick and turned it down. What I would say to councillors in those areas that are going to come under consideration, I think you're going to have a massive job in making sure that residents have the facts and not what they might read on social media. Because had the residents of Jaywick been dealing with the facts last time round, I'm sure they would have voted for it. And just to start that ball rolling, Councillor Griffiths kindly spoke about Harwich Town Council. A Band D household in Harwich, and I mean household, not person, costs 75 pence per week. So as Councillor Land has just said, it doesn't have to be a lot, but it can achieve an awful lot. But I think we have got to be aware that there will be a lot of scaremongering. And I hope all 3 communities are spared that and get a straight shot of what is possible. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Michael Talbot.
Just, Chairman, from personal experience, I would like just to say this. I've been a county councillor. That was a London Borough county councillor. I've been a London Borough councillor. I'm a district councillor here and a parish councillor here. And the most satisfying and effective one of those is that as a parish council member. We're sitting there, we can make a decision and we can make it operate tomorrow. It doesn't have to go through this committee or this channel or be referred to anybody else. We have the list of powers put in the book here for us by EALC, I noticed, which is rather good of them to give us that list, but that's a list to take away with you. Don't throw it away or whatever you do with the book at the end. Keep that, because that's a list of all the powers that a parish council has. And if you're lucky enough to be a parish council member, then you can decide on those, based perhaps even on a deputation from your own residents who you know, where you said to them, well, take that matter to public speaking at the next parish council meeting. That's how our allotments grew, which was in our parish. We made the decision, we had a group of half a dozen people come and asked us, could they have allotments in the village, please? And the parish council said, yeah, don't see why not. They got a piece of land by negotiating with a friendly landowner, and that's our allotments. That was literally the public coming to us, asking us for something, and because we were parish councillors, we could say yes, and it didn't involve anybody else. So all I'd say is, I think, unfortunately, in the unparished areas of the district, and we had a jolly good chat about this at the members' briefing Wednesday week ago, I would hasten to add, where some of this matter was discussed, but a parish council and a parish council member, by parish I mean town council as well, of course, but that's the most valuable service and the closest and most real exercise of your power as a councillor that as an individual member each of us can have, and we should value it, those of us that have got it, and hope that others who don't have it get the benefit of it eventually as a result of this intervention. Thank you, colleagues.
Councillor Mark Stevens. Follow that.
So I was the one unlucky enough to follow Councillor Talbot. Okay, so where do I start? I think 62% of the district is governed by 27 parish and town councils. The other 38 hasn't got anything, so we're asking for 3. So that's where the principle is, and that's what we're asking residents all about. Now, Councillor Griffiths mentioned Harwich, and what a wonderful place that actually is. You know, I've been to several mayor ceremonies, but you can see the work that the town council does when it builds up its, I can't remember the History Foundation that Councillor Calver's on. We've had a tour around the Guildhall, thank you. So I'm struggling with it. Harwich is not my area, and there is an immense pride by the people in Harwich and their councillors around their town council. And the same goes for Manningtree, Brightlingsea, Frinton and Walton. I've never heard anybody say, I want to get rid of my town council, I want to get rid of my parish. I've heard them say, I want to get rid of my town councillor or my parish councillor, but never the organisation. And so that's what I'm going to be asking the people. At the end of the day, it's about them. Now, recommendation C, to answer Councillor Guglielmi, spells out very much what you were saying, I think. And I'll read it out a little bit. The terms of reference to the Community Leadership Overview and Scrutiny Committee be expanded, as set out in Appendix B, to include a reference power to consider and oversee community governance reviews and to submit a final recommendation to the council. You know, I'd love it to be cabinet, but we're giving it to them. Following the conclusion of the review, including any proposal to discontinue, so if Jovic doesn't want to be in, that's their choice, the review in any particular part of the review area based on responses received. And I think that pretty much covers it. I'd love to tell ONS what to do. They won't let me. We're cabinet. It's not for cabinet to do, but I'm sure you've been heard tonight, Councillor Guglielmi. And Councillor Honeywood. Councillor Paul Honeywood. Of course, as an ONS, you're worried about cost and capacity. It's your job. I would hope you would be. It's only right for an ONS chairman to be like that. Doing a governance review is not an easy thing. It takes time. We don't want to pause it too much. But to lay assurance to you, it's not planned to start until July. so we can take into consideration the LGR and the white paper that come through it. Chairman, I'm happy to move this, and I commit it to council.
Chairman, if I may, thank you very much indeed. So I think you're now going to the vote, following the summoning up from the leader. You're both voting on A of the report, and only if A is then agreed, then you have a second vote on the remainder of your recommendations. So can I ask that you vote on A first, and then, depending on the outcome of that, then the second vote. Thank you.
All those in favour of A? Against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you very much. Item B. The remainder of the recommendations. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Item 20, report of the Chief Executive, A7 members of the Council's Independent Remuneration Panel, pages 333 to 336.
Chairman, it's 10 o'clock. I'm happy just to move this. I need a seconder, so I'll sit down and get that.
I'm happy to second, Chair.
All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? That's carried. Item 21, report of the Monitoring Officer, A8, Local Government and Social Care, Ombudsman's Findings, pages 337 to 340.
Once again, Chairman, I am happy to move that, and I look for my seconder.
Happy to second, Chair.
All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Questions pursuant to the Council Procedure Rule 11.2, pages 341 to 342. Councillor Paul Honeywood, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. At the Council meeting held on the 17th of September 2024, this Council debated a motion in response to the Labour Government's plans to cut winter fuel payments from all pensioners except those receiving pension credits. That motion, as amended by Councillor M.E. Stevenson and passed by this Council, stated inter alia the following. 3. Following the Government's decision to remove the winter fuel payment from pensioners not in receipt of pension credit, the Leader of the Council and his Cabinet urgently review how Tendring District Council, with the inclusion of its partners and other local organisations, can offer support and advice to pensioners living in the district who may suffer or be in the position of fuel poverty or difficulty as a result of this Government decision. And 4, the availability of pension credit be promoted by the Council and with partners to assist all those entitled. So my questions are, can the Leader of the Council please update this Council on the action he and his Cabinet have taken following the urgent review as to how Tendring District Council, with the inclusion of its partners and other local organisations, has offered support and advice to pensioners living in this district who may suffer or be in a position of fuel poverty or difficulty as a result of this Government's decision to cut winter fuel payments, and how the availability of pension credit has been promoted by the Council and with partners to assist all those entitled. And secondly, Could the leader of the council also update this council as to when these actions were taken and how successful they have been? Thank you, Chairman.
Mark Sims.
Thank you, Chairman. I've already provided a written response, but I'll read it out for the rest of the council. Thank you for your question, Councillor Honeywood. This council is committed to providing support and advice to local pensioners to take up money that they are entitled to, in particular pension credit, and to work with partners to do so. The council has a fuel poverty officer who developed and provided a leaflet that informs people how to access pension credit and wider support, which has been circulated in particular at the Energy Hub in Jaywick. I requested officers to contact Department Work and Pensions, the DWP, to obtain posters and leaflets promoting the take-up of pension credit. That request was made of the DWP on September the 24th. Council sent out social media posts to promote pension credit take-up on the 28th of September. Facebook reached 1,700 people with 15 interactions. We followed up on 13th of November with a further post on Facebook, which also reached 841. And Nextdoor received 634 impressions. We also posted on Instagram. I also sent out a link to information from Age UK on pension credit to all district councillors. On the 17th of October, Lee Healy, the Deputy Chief Executive, wrote to all council members asking them to share leaflets with their networks, including the DW Pension Credit leaflet and the TDC Winter Support leaflet, as well as a leaflet from CVST on their Winter Warmers events. Pension credit drop-ins took place at CVST in Clacton on the 5th of November and Harwich 19th of November, delivered by Peabody. The council has helped signpost residents to these events. Citizens Advice has promoted the take-up of pension credit and winter fuel payments through their community advisors, welfare benefits, their website, promotion on BBC Essex, Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. On the 14th of November, an officer attended the Older People's Forum at Frinton Community Hall to promote the importance of increasing the uptake of pension credit. A briefing was provided by council representatives identifying the actions taken by the council to raise awareness and provide support. The event was organised by CVST and attended by partners including AG Well East, Community Agents Essex and Essex Carers Support. This was the first Older People Forum after the last full council meeting. I wrote to the two local MPs to ask for their support in promoting pension credit and to the Chancellor Rachel Reeves requesting that the government promote pension credit. You'll see that our website has a page on pension credit and a link to the government information. Leaflets and posters have been distributed across the district in Clacton. In Clacton Tendering Community Transport will each put a poster up in their 10 buses. Posters were then distributed to several banks, Clacton Library, Clacton Train Station, Specsavers, the Post Office and several pharmacies. Leaflets have been delivered in Brightlingsea and were well supported with the Peabody Citizen Advice Bureau going into parish councils. Leaflets have also been provided to the shops and libraries and also the Autumn Centre for their lunch club members. Leaflets have been put on Jaywick, including the Sunspot Cafe, the Resource Centre and shops. Some were also put in the SOS bus. Chairman, you asked me what I've done. Which was on site. I've got three little sentences. The leaflets and posters were provided in Harwich and Dovercourt, including to supermarkets, the library, Essex Pedal Power, Park Pavilion, CVST, and also present in Harwich Town Council. Leaflets have been provided in Frinton and Walton. The digital access team then supports digital access to Colchester and Tendring, has put information up. In short, there's been a sustained campaign of support for pensioners to take up pension credit and sharing information across part.
Item 23. Hold it. Sorry.
You really do want a supplementary after that, don't you, or a clarification? I'm sure you do. It's only a brief one, so thank you for your very detailed reply, especially this time of night. So I just made a note. It is estimated that over 38,000 pensioners could lose their winter fuel allowance in tendering. I just wondered, how successful do you think your actions have been in recruiting or getting people signed up?
I recognise that was part of the question. It was a difficult one to answer because you don't know how people are taking it up, because the very nature of it is that people aren't taking it up. So we're going to have to wait until we get some more figures from the DWP as to whether that has been successful, and we've seen a bigger take-up. I'm hoping it's successful, but I've got no figures, and we won't have them until we get them off the DWP.
Item 23, urgent matters for debate. Now, none. Now, just after that longer session today, I apologise to Lisa over there, whether she's been promoted or demoted. I don't know what we actually said. I don't know which one it was. Can I say to you all, there's mince pies and wine. I know it's late, but please come and, if you can, come and join us. And those few people in the audience over there, if you want to come in for mince pies, come and join us, a glass of wine. If I don't see you before, happy Christmas to you all. Pleasure. The meeting is now closed.
Please be upstanding.